In Lesson 1-3, you will compare and order integers as well as find the absolute value. Before you can compare integers, you need to know what integers are. Integers are whole numbers and their opposites. Whole numbers are numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And when we talk about their opposites, we're talking about -1, -2, -3, and so on. Numbers to the right of 0 are greater than 0, and numbers to the left of 0 are less than 0. When we compare them, we'll often write an inequality. An inequality is a mathematical sentence indicating that two quantities are not equal. In this lesson, you'll be using the less than and greater than sign. Sometimes kids get these confused because they're so used to elementary school where they just knew that it ate the bigger number. But when they have to actually read the symbol, they're not sure which one is less than and which one is greater than sometimes. One way to remember is the one that looks most like the letter L, just scrunched down a little bit, is less than. And the one that you could very creatively turn into a G is the greater than symbol. In the first example, we're going to compare -2 and -4 by putting in a less than or greater than sign. If you look at the two numbers on a number line, here's -2, here's -4. -4 is smaller because it's further to the left. So if we want to put in the correct sign, it's going to be -2 is greater than -4. That's a little bit of a tricky one because a lot of times kids see the 4 and think that's bigger, so they think that's the bigger number. But when we're talking about negatives, the bigger number is actually the smallest number because it's further to the left. We're going to do just a few more to practice right here. -3 and 2. Since one's positive and one's negative, the negative number is always going to be smaller than the positive number. So we're going to have -3 is less than 2. With -5 and -6, they're both negative, so we actually want the number that's bigger, the 6. That one's going to be further to the left, therefore that's going to be the smallest. So -5 is greater than -6. And with the last example, -1 and 1, again, negative numbers are always going to be smaller than positive numbers, so -1 is less than 1. The last thing we're going to talk about is absolute value. Absolute value is the distance between a number and 0 on a number line. Right here we have 0. If I asked you what the absolute value of 4 is, and to show absolute value we put these straight up and down lines around it, kind of like a cage. The absolute value of 4 is 4, because it's 4 units away from 0 on a number line. Over here, if I wanted to talk about -4, the absolute value of -4 is also 4, because it's 4 units away from 0 as well. When you take the absolute value of a number, it's always going to be a positive answer. It's positive because it's not showing direction, it's just showing how far away it is from 0. Both 4 and -4 are 4 units away from 0. We have a few examples here to practice this. Evaluate the absolute value of -7. Well, -7 is 7 units away from 0. That's the easy one. As we go on, these get a little bit trickier, but still not so bad. Absolute value of 5 plus the absolute value of -6. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of -6 is 6. And 5 plus 6 is 11. In example number 4, you need to first do the problem that's inside of the absolute value symbols. 5 take away 3. 5 take away 3 is 2. So we have the absolute value of 2 plus, now this next one here, it sort of snuck in here. The textbook included one that's a little silly that we don't really talk about until the next lesson. If you have 8 and you take away 10, if you think of up on a number line, if I was up at 8 and I take away 10 units, it's going to bring me to -2. Now the absolute value of 2 is 2. The absolute value of -2 is also 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Now our very last example is 8 plus the absolute value of n if n equals -12. That just means we're going to take this -12 and we're going to put it right there for the n. So the problem is going to be 8 plus the absolute value of -12. Absolute value of -12 is 12. 8 plus 12 is 20.